Good morning, Facebook. Yesterday, 3,865 people died of COVID. Around 10,000 Americans declared bankruptcy, mostly from unpayable medical bills. About 12,000 people globally starved to death as a result of the economic damage of lockdowns, and Elon Musk became the world's richest man, reaching a wealth of $185 billion, more than Earth's bottom billion citizens combined. For some time, I have been planning and plotting a podcast, and I think I have finally landed upon a name: Sensing the Senseless. So today, for just a few minutes of what will probably end up being an hour podcast soon, I'd just like to talk about the week. What a week. I think my favorite meme of the week, a meme or a little statement that I saw was 2021 is going to be amazing once we reach it, dated 12/38/2020. And boy, does it seem like we have extended 2020's pattern into 2021. Wow. My mother's probably waking up and will be coming down the stairs here shortly. I was affected by the Capitol storming. I wrote a poem about the Capitol storming. I could read the poem. You could scroll through my posts and read the poem. But I'm affected more by what I said in the short video I posted earlier this week, which is, I really believe that Trump is a master distractor. I believe that he understood that by only allowing the Capitol Police to patrol the riot, that there would be a likely uncontainable event. I believe that people outside of the Trump contingency and the Republican Party, including members of the Democratic elite, understood that this was an uncontainable event, and that the depths to which these people reached the center of our democracy would be a motivating and shaking and emotional and visceral image that America would never forget. Does that make me a conspiratorial thinker that some of these things might have been predicted or allowed to happen? Do I think that these people plotted and planned and created these things? Do I think Antifa is the center of the Trump riots? No, no. This is not QAnon. This is not any of those things. But how do we make sense of the senseless? How do we make sense of a group of people escalating when they'd just gotten what they'd wanted, when they just had their hero Ted Cruz, sign, be the lone senator to force the House, to debate. You have to look at populations. You have to look at psychology. You have to stop dehumanizing the enemy. And these people are our enemies. These people are enemies of America. We are not a democracy, so they are not enemies of democracy. We are a very poor example of a representative, democracy, where a very small part of your vote counts, a very small part of these politicians that are groomed for decades and chosen to be your leaders, and then you're given a choice between the false dichotomy of this two-party system, and then you scream at me about democracy. You scream at me about this failing democracy. We've never never had a democracy in America. You want to talk about the white privilege of these people being allowed to storm the halls of the Capitol building without being shot? Well, let's talk about the white privilege of 300 years of your white male leaders being selected for you while you sit back with your American flag and talk about the pride you have in our democracy and the shame you have in all these people tarnishing it. You can't tarnish something that never was. You can't make sense of things without digging deeper. And for me, making sense of the senseless this week included an acceptance of the bias in the left media, an acceptance of videos from Germany and France played on the regular news, showing cops letting people into the building, people in America telling me I'm insane, and all the usual comments and criticisms. I did have to block one person. I'm working very, very hard, and I plead with you to join me in an effort to work very diligently to not be part of cancel culture. But I still have to respect myself, and I still have to ask, not only ask, but demand a certain level of respect from the people I interact with on Facebook. So I will occasionally block someone, but I see post after post after post bragging about cancel culture, bragging about how you've blocked your last Trump supporting friend, about how all the silence of the Trump supporting friends. I loathe Trump. I loathe everything that he stands for. I loathe 90% of what he did while he was in office, and I loathe about 100% of what he's doing with his last few weeks in office. But I will not steal from myself the opportunity to be a beacon of information, of change, and hope to people that need it the most, the people that I want most to change. Why would I block them? Why would I keep them from my voice? Why would I keep them from my group of friends? Why would I escalate their descent into their conservative, radical bubble? And why would I make my radical, liberal bubble a more dangerous place for my own mind? So I love you all. I'm super excited about my podcast. I have some first people that I'm going to be interviewing. I want to interview regular people about their journeys into sense making during such a senseless time. How do we peruse all of this information? How do we remain authentic in a sea of cancel culture? How do we stay true American patriots in a time that America is waking up to its deepest and longest standing racial, systemic, violent, anarchistic, all of these parts of America that America's shadow has been cast. America's shadow has extended in the early morning light. And I hope that you will be open-minded and come with me on these podcast journeys, as we are not afraid to ask questions about everything, as we're not afraid to explore how important vaccines are and what the dangers of unexamined vaccine culture are, how we can look at the value of all of these amazing progressive liberal programs and still look at the necessity of responsibility and the necessity of motivation and the necessity of asking for people to take part in rebuilding their own lives and rebuilding America. There are two extremes that must part a sea and a path for us to flood forward into a new era of sense making, a new era of truth, a new era of balance. For as these radical components of America continue to create a larger and larger gap, it creates a larger and larger space for us to come together. And I hope you will join me in that togetherness. For we're not just battling a virus together. We're not just battling the greatest economic crisis the world has ever seen. We are battling for the future of how humans interact with information, how humans interact with truth, and how humans interact with the extremities of their own culture. I'm super excited. I love you all. Have a beautiful, beautiful, hopeful, hope-filled Friday. I love you. Goodbye.